We've got, okay, waiting on Facebook. Come on, Facebook. And there's Facebook. And we're going live on Facebook in a second. And looks like it. All right. What's up, Restoration Nation? What's up, Mr. Weatherman in the house?
Mr. McCabe, always a pleasure, sir. Always a pleasure.
Restoration Rebel Roundtable for the 12th of September already, 2024. We're waiting for our special guest to arrive. So while we're doing that, let's do the do like we do every single week. We read the agreements, if I can find them. Here they are. These are the Rebel agreements with Restoration Rebels. Agreement number 1, I will protect the value of my services. Offering free services only serves to erode the value of similar services industry-wide. Agreement number 2, I will practice incredible transparency. I will explain the claim process to my clients. I will not hide pricing details or falsify reports. I will never communicate with an adjuster without also communicating with my client. I had a State Farm adjuster, 4 different emails. I CC'd everybody. He refused to CC anybody on his reply 4 different times in a row. But that's the game they play. Agreement number 3, I do not believe in competition. The restoration companies in my market are part of my community. I will be an active member of my community. It is our unbreakable unity that will create the change that we strive for. Agreement number 4, I am willing to walk away from any project, client, or contract that is not compatible with my values and stated mission. No relationship is worth losing money, sleep, or my humanity. No, sir. Mr. Tom McGuire, welcome to the show.
Gentlemen.
What's up, my man?
Can you hear me okay? I was having some technical difficulties on my end.
Sound great, Tom. Sound great.
Me too. I was having, it was weird. It was strange. But we're here. We're here and we're live. And so this week, I want to let y'all know that this will probably be the last Restoration Rebel Roundtable for a while, until I can line up some sponsors. So this week's sponsor is my company, Claims Delegates. We write Xactimate estimates remotely for restoration contractors across the country. If you want to learn more about writing remote estimates, go to xactimateisbetterhere.com. All right, that's it. I've got all of the requirements out of the way. Let's get down to it. Tom McGuire is a internationally known disaster restoration dude, right? Yeah. Got his big splash, big start in disaster restoration with the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center, right?
Actually, we were before that. We were actually 86. Is when I started in this business with a Kim sponge in my hand, cleaning a fire damaged wall in a factory, a bullet factory in Dallas, Texas.
Holy smokes. Yes.
You got a lot of carbon in those bullet factories. That's for sure.
Well, I was convinced by these guys, we were doing asbestos abatement back then, because if you remember in the 80s, it was before mold was gold, it was asbestos. And that's what I was paying college. I would work during the summer and have enough money because, we were in our early 20s and making $25 an hour. We thought we were on, kings of the world. And And these guys convinced me to come out of school, and I said, Tom, you got to try this fire and water damage restoration. And I was like, what? What is this? But the next thing I knew, I was in Dallas, Texas with a Kim sponge in my hand cleaning a wall. And some things haven't changed, because you can go on to a loss right now, a fire loss somewhere in anywhere on the planet, and somebody's going to be cleaning the wall with a Kim sponge.
Yep. That's right. That's right. So for the past couple of years, Tom has been putting on the Large Loss Mastery series of courses designed to help folks like me and you, restorers, learn how to properly estimate and manage super large losses. And we're not talking about large losses as in $50,000. We're talking about large losses as in $50 million, big ones. How can you quickly assess, quantify, and then report, and most importantly, get paid for the work that you do on super large losses? That is what we're here to talk about today. And for the Restoration Rebel community, Tom is offering a 20% discount to Rebels with the code that I'm going to, since this is being broadcast far and wide, I'm just going to put the code right here in the chat, in the Restoration Rebel Facebook page. If I remember it correctly, you guys look at the Rebel page and make sure I got that code correct. And then here is, for all y'all sitting there wanting to get in the action, there's the link you can get in. What's the website these guys can go to get signed up for your next class, Tom?
It's real simple. Just go to largelossmastery.com, and on there you'll see the schedule. It's real easy to find. In these last two classes that we're having in November and in December, somebody's going to win a cruise for two, a 4-day cruise for two out of Port Canaveral here, the busiest passenger port in the world. And so you'll be sailing on a mega ship at your convenience. We'll put the schedule together with whoever wins. And so we would love for the Rebels to come and claim the prize.
So the 1,000th, I can't even say that without a lisp. So that means you've put 980 some people through this class over the how many years? 2 years, 3 years?
No, it's been longer than that. But actually, we started 8 years ago. But the first 2 years were really I did one class each of the first 2 years. So 2018, 2019 were really the first years that we were rocking and rolling.
Okay.
And so
and I think I went to the Cape Canaveral one of your, that must have been one of your first classes I came to.
That was the first one that we did at Cape Canaveral in 2019.
That was
still one of my favorite classes. Yeah.
So it's, I came out of, anyway, when I was growing up, I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted so bad to be an astronaut. And to go to the Kennedy Space Center and to go to the Saturn V building and see those things, and to walk up to a decommissioned solid rocket booster from the space shuttle, I will never forget that trip. And you're going to do it again on December 6th.
Yep.
December 6th through the 8th.
Yep.
If you can at all swing that, and you're a restoration guy, I highly recommend it. It was awesome. I will forever remember that trip. So we already have, look at this. I'm sorry, Muhammad, but I am not sharing the Rebel code for the discount out in the public. You have to be a Restoration Rebel member. That's part of the coolness. All right. So I'm looking forward to it. First off, Joe, how you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you guys all?
Good. Doing well. Good to see you this week. Have you ever been to a Large Loss Mastery class?
No, I have not.
Okay. Well, there's no time like the present. Get it done. All right, so I'm gonna let Tom, Doug, you guys can take it from here. What I'd like to do is give folks an idea of what does this even mean? What is a large loss, and how does a large loss in your guys' world differ from what I see day in day out, which is mitigation and small residential water, stuff like that. How does that differ, and what are we talking about here?
Well, large loss, once upon a time, you used to define it really by size. And now it's really more about complexity, and so you can have, it doesn't have to be like a mega sized job. It can be a job that is just complex, takes a lot of resources, takes a lot of your talent, because you can have, for example, you can have a drying job, for example. You can have $1 million drying job, a nice drying job. And you're probably going to have maybe 4 people on that job, 4 technicians and some subcontractors and such. But then you can have a $500,000 fire and water job that you have to do at a hotel, and you have to get it done in 10 days. And so that $1 million drying job is much less complex than that 10-day hotel job. That you have to clean it and put everybody, heads in beds and all of that. And so it's really complexity. And for restorers, the complexity is all over the place. And so for one restorer's complexity is somebody else's very, easy job. And so we approach large loss kind of by looking at it like remove the word large. It's just another loss. And because a large loss is just really kind of a series of small losses. And so if you take it in small bites, you can conquer the job. And as long as you have the resources to do it, that being financial, that being knowledge, that being, do you have strategic partners that can do things that you can't? Because we never want to turn things down. We want to do everything on the job. And so it's very important that we have strategic partners that maybe they do stuff that we don't. And so we bring them in for that portion of the job. And so that's really, what we do when we get into the class is we break it down so that you can have somebody, and we have this all the time, where somebody's brand new into the industry, comes in, they just bought a franchise, and the first class they come to is ours. And the way that I designed the course is so that you could come in as a rookie, and when you leave there, you're ready to compete, even with the very experienced people that are in the class. The only difference is going to be resources. Are you going to be able to actually do the job? We're going to give you all of the tools that it takes. Then after you leave the class, you can compete in the estimating, you can compete in the management, but you have to make sure that you have your finances and your knowledge and everything in order to go out and do the jobs. And so that's why we do some crazy case studies, like we were at the Sphere in Las Vegas, which we'll be back there in June next year for our mega course.
Awesome.
And just that was an awesome facility. And it just made my hair stand up on my arms. I was just like, man, I was jonesing to go to work. And because I'm still in the field, and I have clients that I work with and guide them through losses and estimating and management and working with adjusters, the whole 9 yards. And so I'm very active in our industry. And so I'm not sitting on a couch, just putting together a training program. I live everything that I preach. And Dougie's a perfect example. But everything that we teach in the class is about management. It's about estimating. It's about scoping. It's about getting the job and doing the job. We don't focus on the technical end of things because there's a lot of great classes out there that will teach you how to dry a wall, or all of that. So we don't
cleaning techniques. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about here. Yeah. Now, Doug, you did you get this large loss you're working right now before or after you went to large loss mastery?
Oh, way after.
Way after.
My first large loss mastery class was 2 or 3 years ago now, I think.
Okay.
So
talk
I think
to
it
me.
was.
I know you want to keep it close to the vest and not expose too many details about that particular loss, but can you tell me how what you learned and the concepts and the tools you got through large loss mastery, how has that helped you with the current loss you're working right now? It's a big fire in a big facility.
True. Yeah. This is actually a really easy question too. I had done many, many large losses before I ever met Tom. The thing that Tom clued me into was how it's looked at from the adjuster's point of view, what audit triggers to stay away from and things like that. And those are the things that have helped me the most throughout this current loss that we're into now, is to avoid the red flag. If you don't throw the red flag up, they're not going to come looking at you, right?
Staying off the adjuster's radar.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. Stay way off their radar too. With Tom's class, there's been a ton of good things that we've had. The knowledge I got there and that I got to take away from, back to the field with me. But yeah, I was doing large loss before I met Tom for the franchise group that I used to work for before. But yeah, so I did a ton of large loss at the corporate level for that particular group. I had done a ton of big projects, north, south, east, west, everywhere. I'd been
You've been to the Superdome twice.
2 times, yes, sir. Yeah, 2 times.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a project that Tom and I have in common. Yeah, they there's so I had done a ton of large loss already. The first time I had encountered Tom was actually through a business development class. And that's when we came through and everything. From an educational standpoint, that was the first time I'd encountered Tom, was a business development class. In the business development class, he talked a little bit about project management and things like that, but that was scratching the surface for me then, right? So then I come back for the elite class, and then I was just in the combo business or business development and elite class that he did with the guys from
Floodlight,
Head, Heart, and Boots podcast. Yeah, Floodlight, exactly. So I've learned a ton of knowledge from Tom. The best thing about Tom is that he never stops teaching you either. Once you've shaken this guy's hand, you can call him on the phone, just like you, Andy. You know what I mean? Like, once you've shaken his hand, you can call him on the phone if you got a question at 10 o'clock at night, and if he's got an answer for you, he's going to tell you what it is. You know what I mean? A bunch of us woke Tom up in the middle of the night at RIA. He had a party for the edge to show it to everybody that was there, but we missed that party. We were at somebody else's whole thing after, and then we go in like 11 o'clock at night, banging on his door. Come on, Tom, open the door. And he came right to the door, started telling us everything that he was doing and all the stuff that was coming out with the edge, because we were all users of it, I used to write T&M estimates that would take me 24, 48 hours, man. I mean, I've done some big numbers on paper before. Those estimates take time, you know what I mean, to figure out how many rolls of tape and everything goes. And Tom's algorithms do this work for you, and it shrinks the time down just exponentially. And the things that you can learn with the edge, the things that you can learn from Tom as far as project management and how to stay off the radar with the insurance carriers will be the things that save you way more than you'll ever spend on his class. Way more.
Yeah. So what is the edge? Talk to me about that.
Well, the edge is actually, it's a tool that originally I put together, I sketched out in 1998. And I was working with Munters at the time, and I wanted a tool that I could estimate anything. So when we walked on to, because when I look at jobs, I don't just look at one segment. I want it all. So I don't just want to dry the building. I want the documents. I want to clean the building. I want to do the electronics. I want everything in there. So I sketched out this tool on, and I still have the sketch in my file, my historical documents here. And so I did the best I could in Excel. And at the time, in the late 90s, it was very expensive to hire a developer, and so I put it off and just used all the formulas that we use, because everything that we teach in the class is based on formulas that we created out of data that we've been saving and accumulating since the 90s.
Right.
And so, and that's what makes the Edge so very, very effective, because it has all this data that is real on projects that are real. And so, and that's why I just have so much fun with it. And so finally in 2020, we, got the first version of the Edge out. And of course, we have, 2020, we have COVID, right in the middle of that. So
right in time.
I have impeccable timing with bad luck, and so when I'm in Vegas, I don't do any gambling or anything like that, because it just doesn't work out well. But and so we created this tool that where you enter in certain details of the project, and once we know the square footage of the job, the type of job, the working days, is it fire, water, mold, asbestos? It doesn't matter whether it's reconstruction, it's all the same. And the tool that we put together can be used. It focuses on production rate and what people can accomplish in an 8-hour period.
Labor yield. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then that drills down then into a square footage number, because what restorers don't pay attention to enough is their square footage number, because the consulting world and the adjuster world, they love the square footage numbers. They just don't tell the restorers that, because the first thing that will happen when, I'm a third party consultant too, and so I'll look at a file that comes across the desk, is I'm going to find out what the square footage is. So if it's a warehouse and the file comes across my desk and the square footage comes out to be about $30 a square foot, the red flags are going to go up. I'm going to go, why is a warehouse $30 a square foot? Now, it's possible, but not in most cases. And so once you start drilling down, it's like, well, these guys just didn't know what they were doing. And so when we put the Edge together, it was taking all of this information that would give us shortcuts to get where we need to get quickly, because we were also onboarding people and we wanted to bring them up to speed very quickly. And so we did that by utilizing our data. So we could take somebody that wasn't good at estimating and make them good at estimating. And that's what the Edge can do for you. It's called the Edge because it gives you the edge. And it gives you not only the edge on your competitors, but it gives you that edge, that you need as a restorer, because when you're on the job, there has to be no doubt that you are the man and that you know what you are doing. And so when you walk onto that job and you create that estimate and you create that document, and you come back and they're like, how did you do that? Overnight, that's a 30-page document. How did you do that? And that's what the Edge does for you.
Doug, I'd like you to share your story about the consultant that was called in to the job that you're working right now, and his attitude shift from his first communications to his last communications. And I want to talk to you. I want you to talk on the per square foot price, if you can.
No problem.
I mean, not specifically price, but how did that go?
Yeah, no worries. He came in just like every other large loss auditor, man. He came in hot and heavy. You know what I mean? I'm the boss. Everybody get out of my way. What's all these air scrubbers about? Blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Same thing as they always do, man. In my experience, that's It's like they have to establish dominance, right? That's how they do it. They come in and start telling you, well, we're not going to pay for any of this stuff, right? And then you got to do your job as a restorer and justify all the things that you've done so far and all the stuff that you want to do moving forward, right? This guy came in, spent a couple of days kind of going through what we had done so far for burns and everything else, kind of making everything all square in his mind so that it all made sense to him moving forward. He got there about 5 days into the job, so we had already done some stuff. Yeah, so he gets there and things are kind of moving along. And of course, you know, he gets there a little late. We've done a lot and he's already kind of like, well, what the heck is all this stuff? So we give him all justification. We show him what our production rate has been. And on a fire, you know, in this type of a build out, our production, our cost per square foot should probably have been higher. We just figured out a few ways to do some things, and a few of the staff members there actually are heavy equipment operators, and because of the nature of the facility, there's a lot of this heavy equipment around to move big things in big ways real fast. So we just got a lot of stuff done. We created a system. I mean, it's been a lot of cleaning of tools and walls and just about everything you can possibly think of, sprinkler systems, the whole nine. So, I mean, it's all coming down to how we're doing it. Once the guy saw that we had a handle on the job, that you know, not only do we have a handle on it, that, you know, we're taking this baby home for you. He went home Labor Day weekend. He hasn't been back. He just kind of said, the heck with it. You know what I mean?
So he was,
you know, call me next week.
He was slated to be the full-time, essentially, project auditor.
He had a hotel room 2 blocks away from the project. I mean, and he was like, I'm here for the long haul. When he first shook hands.
Gave him, not only did you give him a total per square foot price for the total job, you also gave him a burn rate and a daily rate.
And a production rate to back up what we were doing for a burn rate. And why we were able to achieve the production numbers that we were able to as well. You know, we had a whole bunch of people on deck, a lot of people doing a lot of things, a lot of managements for different types of things, supervisors, project managers, coordinators, accountants, all kinds of people. So, you know, really important to make sure that everybody's role is clearly defined. And so that nobody thinks that like you're billing for an accountant for the coffee getter lady, you know what I mean? Or that you're calling a supervisor who's actually one of the guys from your labor team. And he's a supervisor today because he can bill for that. You know what I mean? It's once you can give them those warms and fuzzies. And I mean, this is all the stuff that are, you know, we talk about it a lot as rebels. There's a lot of people in this industry that as the whole orchard, we're responsible for our bad apples. And we did these types of things to ourselves. This guy wouldn't have had a job in general at all. His existence wouldn't even be necessary had we not done this to ourselves as restorers. You know, I mean, everybody has the same conception of these guys when they pull up there. Everybody always is so afraid of them. They're so worried about them coming through. And it shouldn't be that way. There has to be a cohesive relationship. If you start off button heads, it's never going to stop. And it's just going to be one thing after the other. And you are never, ever, ever going to see that money. You can just sit there and wait. Oh, they'll tell you, oh man, we mailed that check like 3 weeks ago. You ain't seen that check yet? All right.
Mailed that.
Yeah. In 2024, we're still mailing 6-figure, 7-figure checks out these days. So it's, you know, that's totally normal. Get out of here. You know what I mean? But so when you can give these guys the warm and fuzzies off the gate, you'll get them out of your hair. Once they're out of your hair, you're just running your same project again. All you've got to do is what you said you were going to. And as long as you can do that by any means necessary, because I mean, if something has to be done, nobody can really put a roadblock, including the auditor, the carrier, anybody, right? They can't say, we had a different job, apartment community. The parking garage, the ceiling above the parking garage has got to go. And there's 5 layers deep. There's firewall. There's all kinds of stuff in there. But the drive-in is like it is an angle to get down into this parking garage. We can't get a scissor lift to go past the safety code, right? So we call each other, hey, man, listen, we're going to need the world's best scissor lift with outriggers to get up on this thing. And he's like, well, send me a picture. We send him a picture of the scissor lift about to fall over this way. And he's like, yeah, go ahead and get him outrigger. Don't put nobody up there. You know, I mean, if you're right, then they can't fight you. That's all there really is to it. And if you can back up what you say, we had a 27-day mitigation fuse for this part of for that job, for the big one, 27 days, man. So you can imagine the amount of foot power, manpower, and horsepower that had to be on, you know, for this thing to get pulled off. And we're going to be 2 days early.
Okay. How often, and Tom, I want you to chime in on this. How often do you have a deadline on a loss like this? You have, does that get set? Who sets that deadline?
Typically, the client is going to let you know when you're walking into their business. They've got schedule they need to keep. If it's a hotel,
Oh,
hospitality, it's heads and beds. They want you in and out of the hotel. And so it's very important that you know what you're doing, because what you don't want to be doing is walking into a hotel and, all right, so number one, all right, hotels care about two things, their lobby and the guest rooms. Number one, they want people to walk into the lobby and feel like, oh, okay, everything's fine. You put up some temporary walls and you guide them to the elevator and they go to the floor that's ready for them.
that's right.
But if you come in there and you're not communicating well with the hotel, and you all of a sudden you're tearing up the lobby because you don't understand that is one of the most important things to them, they're going to
do not touch.
Yeah. And so what gets restorers in trouble is not knowing what they don't know. And that is one of the driving factors behind what I'm doing with Large Loss Mastery. I'm trying to give restorers everything that I've ever learned so that you don't have to make the same mistakes that we did. And that you can learn from that, because all of these jobs, whether it's a hotel, a hospital, an auditorium, a stadium, all of these jobs have been done before. And so for some of the younger restorers, they make a mistake like, this is the first time it's ever been done, but no, it's been done thousands of times before. And there's data on all the jobs, all the times that it's been done before. And so that's how it's, when you get a job like that, that's how someone like me that's looking at the job as a third-party consultant will be like, all right, so why'd you guys do that? It's like, that didn't, it has to make sense. And you have to bring the client along on that journey. You have to show them, here's what the loss looks like today. Here's what it's going to look like tomorrow. And here's what it's going to look like when we're done. Because tomorrow it's going to look kind of shitty. We're going to tear that wall out. That wall's going to be gone. Just so you know, that wall's going to be gone tomorrow, but don't worry. We're going to rebuild it, all that stuff, but that wall will be gone tomorrow. And this, we're going to drive up. We're going to be moving equipment around. We're probably going to mess up the lawn. We will fix up the lawn. We'll fix anything that we break. But in the meantime, this is what we have to do. And so a lot of times what restorers don't do is they don't take them on that journey.
Right.
This is what it is today. And I've made the same mistake. And the reason why I can tell this is because I made this mistake on a huge job at Stanford University in 2008, and huge project, 58 buildings in a flash flood.
Tom drove a truck on the lawn. President of the school got mad at him. Tom drove a truck on the yard at Stanford. No big deal.
No biggie. Oh my goodness.
I didn't, but my team did. But we had all 58 buildings set up in 48 hours, and we did mess up some lawn. And the chancellor of Stanford called me in, and I was getting ready to give him great news, and he said, "Tom, why are you effing up my campus?" And I was like, "What? We thought we were doing great. We haven't slept in 2 days, and
it was messed up before we got here. What are you talking about?"
and he's like, you guys messed up the lawn. You drove all over the grass. And in his eyes, we were making the loss worse. In our eyes, we thought we were heroes.
You had to do what you had to do.
Yes, but we didn't bring him on that journey. We didn't show him, okay, this is tomorrow. You're going to come in. We're going to drive on the grass, or the grass will get messed up. We're going to fix it. If I would have told him that from the beginning, there would have been no issue at all. He would have came back the next day and he said, "Oh, Tom told me it was going to be like that, so I'm all right with it." You don't want customers don't want surprises.
No,
and that goes for investors, consultants. They don't want surprises. And so be straight up. If there is something they need to know, tell them.
Tell
You
them.
don't let them find out from somebody else, because man, that sucks.
Yeah, one of the I was doing a bigger loss, bigger for me at the time, at a high profile property in downtown Portland. It was the brewery blocks, and it was where the old Henry Weinhardt's brewery was, and there was a big restaurant involved and things like that. But the architectural firm in charge of the entire remodel of these 4 blocks had a loss in their unit, which happened to be the penthouse unit in one of these buildings, and we messed it up. We messed something up, and I hurried over there, and I'm going with the property manager, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, Andy, you can't unfuck this. You can never unfuck something. All I need to know is what you guys are going to do to fix it from here. And so that stuck with me my entire career. It's like, you can't unfuck it, but I can give you next steps. I can give you a solution, and we can give you we can set the plan. So, hey Joe, do you have any questions for these guys?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, I've done tons of large loss myself and everything, and I mean, it is. I mean, I totally agree with you on the whole taking the crew or the property management or whoever's in charge of the job on the journey with you. You know, I feel like the majority of the time on large loss files where people are really losing themselves on it is, just like you guys are talking about, there's a time frame. Well, that time frame doesn't start like right on the second it happens, because you got to get everybody in place, and then you say, here's our plan, and then that time frame starts. And I feel like a lot of contractors, they want to treat a large loss like it's a residential, and we got to get in here and tear everything out on day, immediately right off the bat. And it's like, no, like you need to extract and then have a powwow and let's figure out what we're going to do. And that's when your time frame kicks off.
Yeah.
And
triage. Stop the bleeding.
It's what makes the large loss such a different thing, is that you can't just go in there and start gutting it on night one, because I've seen so many contractors who, I got the manager's signature, but the manager didn't have signing power to let you tear up the building.
Yeah, there's always those guys that fall for the hotel manager's signature, and there doesn't mean anything. And then the insurance pulls up, and they're all, yeah, who are you guys? We brought BMS Cat with us. Like,
see you
later. What are you even doing here? Thanks for that extraction. We appreciate it.
Well, in each facility, like Joe was saying, each facility is different. So, for example, if we're doing hospitality, heads and beds, they want you in and out. It's that, so that their schedule is going to be a little quicker. Let's go to industrial facility, DuPont, a factory, or a hospital. Hospital doesn't want you you're not walking into a hospital and treating it like a hotel. They want to know exactly what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. And the same is true with industrial. You go on to a project for DuPont, for example, and I've done a lot of projects for DuPont, and it's 2 days before you're allowed onto the property, because you have to go through 2 days of their safety training. And you got to know exactly what because they're not going to turn you loose, and they're not going to turn a bunch of idiots loose in their building.
You got to be cleared.
They want to make sure you're not going, when the buzzer goes off, because, they got some chemical stuff, and there's a series of alarms that will go off, and you got to know what the heck they are, because if you're driving a vehicle, you got to get out of your vehicle, shut the vehicle off, because a running vehicle can cause an explosion. You got to know that stuff. And so that it's very important to understand the client and not be so wound up in what we have to do as restorers. We're always exactly it's always our name is over here and their name's over here. And so when we have our shirt on, it has both of our names on, and we represent them.
I mean, I do. I remember like one of my very first large losses I did. I got thrown onto a federal law enforcement facility at a training ground, and it was like 3 hotel buildings pretty much all flooded from a hurricane, and you couldn't get any tips laborers on site because none of them would pass the background check. So we had to train. I had to train like 75 housekeepers and cafeteria workers how to do demo because they wouldn't let trailer mounts on or nothing. And I mean, that's the fun of the large loss is like you always have to be ready to jump on your toes and figure out a way to get around the problem because some of the problems you can't just say, "Oh well, we'll make it work" and all. And it was a difficult job.
There's not an off-the-shelf solution for some of this.
But it is. I mean, I feel like a lot of. I mean, hotels are. Hotels do have a quicker time frame, but even still with them, they're not going. They want you to come in and extract on night 1 and everything. But very few hotels have I went to where like, unless it's like a catastrophe style loss, they're going to let you start demoing out right away. Like they're going to be calling in the main manager and saying, "Hey, get down here." And you get these guys that just see dollar bills and they're like, "Oh, my buddy's connected. He got me in this job." They treat it like a homeowner's house, and they think they can just start tearing it up. And I'm like, you got like 30 guests in here that you're going to wake up, like you're going to make some people mad.
Yeah, and Joe's what we've, I got a call on a project. I won't say who or anything like that, but it was here in Florida, big project. I mean, when I say big, it was about $18 million job, and I got a call from the consulting company that was running it. And they said, "Hey, Tom, you got anybody, in this area that you would recommend?" And I said, "Sure." And they were throwing off the contractor that was on that job because they weren't listening to the facilities people. And this was a high-end property and a big deal. And so, those things happen, and they happen, just because we just don't have, sometimes we don't have the A team. And we have to send the C team or the D team out,
but we don't want to punt it either. So,
but if you're sending the D team out on an A job, make sure if you're the owner of the company, make sure your ass is out there. Make sure that you're not leaving it up to somebody that doesn't have the experience to run a job like that, because you'll get thrown off, and then it sucks. There's nothing fun. Or it just sucks when you get thrown off of jobs.
Talk to me about big numbers. I want you to talk about the World Trade Center bombing, the cleaning that was required in that building. I want to talk how many bodies, how many days, how many square feet.
Well, that was still one of the largest projects ever done.
Ever done, period. Not for you, for everyone. Largest projects ever done. What was the total on that one?
And I was at the time I was 26-ish, and so I was one of 11 project managers on the job, and we had just some incredible talent. The guys that managed it, but everybody that was in that management team are now still very active in restoration, and most of them are consultants and business owners and all of that. But it was 8.8 million square feet.
8.8 million square feet.
Yep. And it's still one of the largest projects, not the largest dollar wise. There's been projects lately that are much, much bigger dollar wise. But 8.8 million square feet. And we had almost 4,000 people a day working on that project, and we completed it in 16 days. And so that's the equivalent of almost 700 average size homes a day. A day is what we were cleaning, and it was a military operation.
Yep.
And whenever somebody tells me, we don't do large loss or blah blah blah, yeah, whatever, my answer is always, you don't do large loss yet. And it's my job to make sure when that opportunity comes around that you're ready. And so the same thing there. We were an $8 million company at that time when we did that job, and we needed 200 supervisors, and we didn't have 200 supervisors, and so if you were unemployed and you were an uncle or an aunt or mom or dad or sister or brother, you became a supervisor in the World
You
Trade.
got drafted.
You are promoted.
Congratulations.
Let me ask you,
Yeah.
Tom. Here's one for you here. As a good question. I mean, I know a lot of contractors. They get a what they consider to be a decent sized large loss or whatever, and all of a sudden they roll up there, and next thing they know, they see someone from like Young and Associates or JSL rolling out of their truck, and they go immediately on the defense because they're like, "Who are you to tell me how to do my job?"
Yeah.
What kind of words of wisdom would you pass on to people about working with those the carrier side?
And I love this question, Joseph, because this is one of my characteristics that I want to pass on to everyone. When you have that situation, it's much better that they show up when we're just getting started, because I love that, because now I can sit down with them and I can show them our paperwork. Here's what we're going to give you every day. You're going to have everything that we do every day. Here's how we're going to document it. Boom, 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 boom. And then if it's a long project, I'm giving them an invoice every 10 days, like clockwork. Boom. Here it is. Here's all our backup. So now 10 days into maybe a 40 or 60-day job, they've got our first invoice. So now they're already seeing, what we have. So by the time we get to that fifth invoice, there's no issues. We've ironed everything out, and we've already adjused our pricing and everything. So there is nothing to do at the end of the job. Our final invoice is done. Usually you're going to get paid quicker. I would prefer, when the consultant is on the job early. It's just when the consultant shows up and they're inexperienced and they don't know what they're doing and they're trying to be bossy. That's difficult.
That never happens.
And you have to have like a little sit down with them and let them know, okay, here's who we are, here's what we can do, and what's your experience, and find out who they are, how they operate.
Okay.
And once you do that, then all of a sudden it's like they can learn from you. And once you understand that they can actually learn from you, it changes the whole dynamic. Next thing you know, they're asking you for a job.
Right. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. Tom, what happens when that first draw check never shows up? And how often does that happen?
Never shows up, or just is slow?
Just isn't on time, man. Like when
You're 2 or 3 draws in and you haven't seen a dime.
First one.
Well, you need, the communication is everything, and then you need to have a come to Jesus and find out, okay, what's holding this up. If we're doing everything that we said we were going to be doing and you agreed to it, then there shouldn't be anything that's holding it up. If they're just holding it up because of no reason, then you have to have a come to Jesus.
Have you ever had to shut down a job for lack of payment?
Only once.
Okay.
And it wasn't very long, because once you stop working and the client is happy with you, and the client, all of a sudden their job is stopping because you're delaying paying the contractor. So my advice is always stay very, very close to the client, the person who signed your paperwork. That is your customer, because the customer is never the adjuster. It's never the consultant. The customer is whoever signed your paperwork, whoever signed your contract. Stay very close to them, because once their project, their recovery process is hindered by lack of payment to a contractor that they love, they will then come in and get on your side. And if you stay close to the client, you say, man, we haven't gotten paid on this thing. Can you do me a favor and talk to somebody and see what you can do? Always keep that communication open with your client and also with the third party and the adjuster. It's just better, to get along with everybody. I call it the power of nice. You can go back to your hotel room and scream at the mirror, or go in your truck and drive till you're not pissed anymore. But
and I end up in another state when I do that.
You just have to do it. You just have to. Sometimes you just have to, do things you don't want to do. The job will end, and you will get to go home. But stay close to the client. Make sure that they understand what's going on. Make sure that they always understand that this is a business between you and I. That the adjuster, they're actually not a part of this contract. They are a third party that is writing the check, yes, but they are not the client. And so you always have to make sure that everybody understands. And that's why you have to ask for money up front on big projects. Don't be afraid. If you're afraid to ask for money, then there's an old saying: if you don't ask, you don't get. If you don't ask, you don't get. And if you don't get, you don't eat. And so if you don't eat, Mama's gonna be mad.
Tom made a really valid point there too. A lot of contractors shy away from the money talk when the adjusters show up and everybody starts getting there. Guys don't ask. They're so excited in the moment that they've gotten this job, especially guys that don't do large loss all the time. And another good point is you don't do large loss yet. When that phone call rings and somebody says, I got 46 units in a hotel flooded, you're a large loss guy today. And if not, like, somebody put my number in the chat, I'll go do the thing anywhere. You know what I mean? But bottom line, I mean, you're not a large loss guy yet. And no matter what, when it all comes down, it's going to happen one day to you as a restorer, and you have to be ready and to have the tools. Then you have less stuff that burdens you. What Joe was saying earlier, every large loss you ever encounter will have some type of a hurdle. You'll have to get creative and think outside the box to pull these types of jobs off in a reasonable amount of time for a reasonable amount of money. The insurance company's got all the data on earth to decide, if this job right here is the exact same square footage and building type as this job over here back in 2020, 2021 or whatever. And this job costed us this much. We agreed to this price, and this was fair. That goes into a data set against the one that happened in 2018, the 16 that happened in 2017, et cetera, down the line. So, I mean,
they know.
Yeah, no matter what, they know what it's going to cost them to do it. Now it comes down to you being right as the contractor. And no matter what job you're on, too, and any estimate that you write, you're going to have to base that estimate off of a schedule. You're going to have to put a timeline on it. And if you say 25 days and it gets to 35 days, you better have one heck of an explanation or a signed change order as to why things are happening that way. You know what I mean? So you always have to be ready in the heat of the moment. And any given time, you're going to become a large loss guy. It could happen.
And if
go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
Well, if I could just tag on to what Dougie said there, just for real quick. When you talked about the information that the insurance company uses and that the consultants use, that is all data that's generated by restorers. And so I'll just say quickly, make sure as restorers that you know your data. You're sitting on it. You're sitting on your production rates. You're sitting on all of the information. And so that's what we've done, for 3 decades now, is managed our data and that keeps you off the radar because you're on the same playing field with them. Sorry, Joe.
So I've had it happen a few times where, like, I've done a large apartment complex, like where there's like, this was a lot of times down in Florida, where it's like, there's like 35 buildings. Each building has 4 units in there and all, and we're all showing the whole thing out. And we set it up as a time and material job. We give them our burn rates and all. And then at the end of the job, we're using time and material, everything's great. And then at the end of the job, I get the adjuster calling me up saying, I really need you to like translate this into Xactimate because obviously and everything. What's your opinion or stance on that? When they start trying to make you switch off of a burn rate and go.
That's a good question. Good question.
Well, if the adjuster has experience, and they're on a commercial job, the word Xactimate will never come out of their mouth, or shouldn't.
Bingo.
And if it does, that just tells you that they're very inexperienced, and you can tell them.
Say that again, Doug.
And take them up on that. Take them up on that inexperience right away. Yep. Then call Andy McCabe and have Andy write your Xactimate estimate on your multi-Brazilian dollar loss.
$1
you submit
million.
That to the insurance company and tell them, hey, which one do you like better?
Yeah.
If they're asking for Xactimate, they are asking for it, and we will give it to them. It's redonkulous.
Yeah.
That's what people don't understand. Xactimate doesn't have any economies of scale built in.
It's a great tool.
Lining out the Superdome.
Yeah. It's a great tool.
It's made for residential, standard grade residential losses with some high grade features. But that's about it. It's not designed for a large loss or a commercial property.
So it sounds like your answer, Joe, is give it to them.
Oh, I know my answer. My answer is I'll have to.
Yeah.
But here you go, man. Yeah.
You give it to them. I would just charge for it.
I would charge for it. I'd give it to them, but I would also prepare that T&M. Don't stop your T&M process, because once that newbie that newbie goes to his manager, I got him to put in the Xactimate and look at this number, he's gonna lose his mind.
That's what happened
all the way back to T&M.
When I was at Blue River, we did Churchill Downs, and they had like 27 sprinkler lines break at one time.
And they did that in Xactimate.
Youngness, we build them as time and material, but Young and Associates was like, they agreed to have us go through and Matterport the entire complex and get the sketch out and everything. And it was all because they weren't prepared to know how to write for the reconstruction side of it on putting everything back together again. And I was like, I spent an entire week walking around the property, zigzagging back and forth, Matterporting this place out.
You lost some weight that week.
I did. I need to do it again.
No way.
That didn't have anything to do with the restoration part of it. It was just the data that they needed on after you were done. And so
how many of us are out there getting sketches for adjusters every day? Like, these guys can't even draw a building. We're doing their job for them. They're like, okay, now that I have this part, the hard thing, now I can go in and tickety-two away.
I don't draw so good.
Well, and Doug, here's what's happened to our industry. So I started in 1986. In 86,
did you say 1986 or 1886? Does it sound like
1886? Yeah.
I started in 1886.
1986. Did I say
right after the Civil War was over, I got to work.
You had it right.
Yeah, 1986. And back then, that was 10 years before IRCRC had standards or anything. And so, and so now you got me off my, I can't even remember what we were. So we were heroes. And and we were treated like that. It was like, they couldn't wait for us to come onto the job. And so, but what's happened now is, is flipped. And I can't remember what point I was going to make there when we got off on the 1886.
We were talking about how
sketching and
we were talking about how we're doing adjustment jobs with the sketch.
Yes, because what happened over the last 2 decades is the insurance companies have gotten rid of the field adjuster.
Yes, they have.
And the field adjuster, we used to show up, even 15 years ago, show up and we would just do the estimate. And the adjuster would be there doing the sketches, and they'd have a couple people, they do the sketches, they do all the pictures, they do all of the documentation. But what's happened now is the restorer is doing all of that. They're doing everything that the adjuster the field adjuster used to do.
That's
And the insurance companies love it because they got rid of about 30,000 employees, you know, and so and so for the younger generation that is listening, it wasn't always like this. We weren't always doing sketches and measuring and doing all this stuff. That was done by the field adjuster. That has really just come about in the last 15 to 20 years. And so it's very important, you know, because now what I find for me, what I find, guys, is I'm part historian, part mentor, and part something else. So part teacher or whatever. I don't know.
Nanny. Babysitter. All right. So we're up against time. We've got 2 classes coming up, one in November. What are the dates?
We've got November. I should know this. November 19th through the 21st is our business development. We'll be in Reno. And then for our elite course, we'll be in Cape Canaveral. In Astro, we'll go home. This is Astro right here. This is actually the Astro that we had in Melbourne, Australia last year. So Astro is all over the world. And so Astro will go home with the winning team. We always have a competition. The class, you know, what we teach, what we preach, we teach, we use, and we do. And so we put it to use. We get everybody in a competition, and the winners go home with Astro and the bragging rights for winning the competition. And so we have a lot of fun. December, it's my favorite class. We usually blow it out. It's a year-ending class, so we usually spend a little extra money on steaks and beers and fish and chicken if you don't like steaks. So, but
if you don't like steaks, maybe don't come.
Tom's classes are integral, man. I've been to both the business development and the elite. I'd have my Astro right now too, but he's at my office. It's way back that way.
Nice.
In civilization over there, I stay away from that stuff. But it's a great class, man. The elite class is that I've been to the year-ender one too. That was the elite class that we went to. Tom does a great job with presentation, man. The case studies will challenge you no matter what level of restoration that you're at. Only advice I can give you is either come with a team or make friends with good team right away, because it's going to come in handy with, you know, in the later rounds of that whole experiment. Definitely a very hard case study. It'll make you think no matter what level of restoration you're at. But he walks you right through every single step of it so that there's nobody in the class by the end of it that's confused or couldn't take on that job. Is the case study at Kennedy again, Tom?
We'll be at Kennedy Space Center.
It's amazing, man.
Yep.
The thought process just in the power washing of the rocket garden and cleaning stuff like that, the thought process you have to put in to the whole of this case study is just insanity, man. I mean, it'll make you think no matter what level of restoration you're at. Business development class is another great one. A lot of great speakers, guys that will definitely make you a better salesman, whether you're a marketer or an owner of a company. You know, great place. There it is right there. Yeah. Been there twice with Tom.
Yep. And we do. You will clean rockets.
We will clean rockets.
We're going to clean rockets. Just the thought of it, man. When you first hear it, it's intimidating. It'll pressure of it alone. That's the rocket garden right there that you're scrolling through. The pressure of that alone. And then, you know, Tom reminds you that like they do this. They do this all the time. This isn't something that's like not done by this place. This place has an exact plan. They know how much it costs. They've got a company that comes in there and does this exact thing. So it's, you know, it's you versus the facts of the case, you know, just like it is in the real world.
Oh, there's Mickey. Is Mickey going to be there too?
Mickey doesn't travel anymore. And so, and he's getting ready to retire. And I'm trying to get him out for this one last trip to Kennedy for him, because he's probably going to retire in the next year or so.
Okay.
He's in his 70s, and
Yeah,
I
good for
love.
Mickey Lee.
Yeah, I love Mickey. He's a mentor and a dear friend, and the only reason why I've been able to do anything in my career is because of the people that I have worked with over time, and the people that I have met, and now the people that I've met just from the class, like you guys here. It's a blessing, and I love it. I never get tired of it. I get out onto a job and I get all jonesing, and when we were at the Sphere in Las Vegas, with our class, and I was just like, man, this is awesome. And when you think about the Sphere, it's like, how in the hell would you do this job? But you always have to remember that they built the building, and if they built it, you can clean it.
Yep.
And so it's all there. All the answers are always there. And so even it might be a little tricky, but that's what we're here for.
I'm trying to find that epic. I want to find the Saturn building here before we go.
Yeah, you got a great picture there at the Saturn building.
A big giant of a man, 6'6.5", in front of. Does those? I guess it's not in there. I got to look somewhere else. But here's me in front of the solid rocket booster. I had to take that shot.
Yeah, that's a good one
but
too.
I can't find. Yeah, I'll find it now. I'll send it to you. But the Saturn V, the scale of that rocket is just it's mind bending.
Yeah,
it's mind bending.
And since that class, Andy, they have the Gateway building, which has a Falcon 9 going across the ceiling.
There we go.
The Gateway building. There you go. Yeah.
So big.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I'm not a small human. Well, Tom, I'm looking forward to it. Again, anyone, there's the Rebel discount code. I'll put it again in the thread in the Rebel group. And I'll mention it again a couple more times this week. But largelossmastery.com. We got December 6th through the 8th. I highly recommend that class. The business development. How are you going to go get these commercial jobs? How are you going to market yourself to these companies that handle this stuff? That class is on November 19th through the 21st. Just get in there. Just get in there, folks. And yeah, Tom, what else do we need to know?
For our West Coast guys, that one is a good one because we're right there in Reno. Easy in, easy out. And one of my favorite spots. I grew up in Reno, Lake Tahoe. Went to high school and grade school in Carson City, so I always love going back there. It's a great class. You'll learn. We talk about creating opportunities, finding opportunities, and then building great teams, keeping great teams, finding great clients, keeping clients. All of those things. We have blocking and tackling. We have some really experienced and great speakers, and then some entrepreneurs that have just done some amazing global conquering things, and just very exciting.
Nice.
And everything that I learn and I experience, I bring people in. If I don't know, I bring people in that do. And so that's a class that I try to bring in as the best speakers that we can.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Doug, thanks for your time. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you,
Joe,
guys.
great to see you, as always. We'll see you. We're not going to do next week Roundtable. We might not do another one until we can get a sponsor for the Roundtable. So if you guys know some equipment manufacturers or some restoration-focused big businesses that want to sponsor the Restoration Rebel Roundtable, let's do it. Otherwise, Tom, keep me posted on how things are going, and best of luck, man. Great to see you.
Very good. No, thank you, guys. Much love. Thank you.
See you soon, Tom.
We'll see you.
Cheers.